Go over to our reporter, Pule Letshwiti-Jones. Someone needs to send him and our team a couple of Red Bulls as well. Been a very long weekend for you, Pule. Morning. Still looking bright-eyed and starry-eyed as well this time in the morning. All right, let's go through the list. We were hearing the cheering in our headline stories. Just to take me through the top six quickly before you speak to your guest. Good morning. What are we looking like?
Good morning, Gareth. Actually, I had a bit of coffee this morning just to try and keep me up. It has been indeed a long 3-day weekend as well, which was marred by a lot of challenges for this provincial conference. We hadn't slept. I mean, even last night we were looking at some of the chaotic events that are unfolding, the litigation to try and halt this provincial conference. But I mean, we're here now. The top 5 has been finally elected. I'm going to be speaking to Nono Maloyi in a few seconds from now. But one has to be very analytical into what happened here. Many are saying that they thought the Premier Bushimape would have stood a chance, even though the IPC and the ANC NEC shoved his reputation through many of the members of the ANC's throats to try and make him appealing as a candidate as well, who was already in government. But you also need to look at the credentials as well that Mr. Maloyi carries, who he was the deputy provincial chairperson in 2008. This is the very same PEC that was disbanded under the reign of Supra Mahumapelo. So he's a well-known candidate to the leaders. He's a well-known leader to the leaders. So his name is not new to many, very familiar there. And of course has outlined some of his ambitions and of course expectations while in this position to try and change the political dynamics in the province as well. He's joining me now. We're going to be speaking to him regarding what he'll be planning for the province. Firstly, Chair, congratulations on being elected as the chairperson of the province. Maybe perhaps you can start off by telling us your plans. I know we had a media briefing. I know you're fatigued, but in just a few words, what is it that you'll be doing now that you are elected?
No, thank you very much, and thanks for having me, and good morning to yourself and eNCA. Are you eNCA? To eNCA listeners? No, I don't have plans. The ANC has got plans. In the ANC, individuals don't develop their own plans. We are guided by decisions of ANC conferences. Now, you will know by now that we have not completed the business of conference. Unfortunately, this was a tedious process. In due course, we are going to reconvene this conference in order for us to complete the business. Key things that still need to be done. We still need to break into commissions where we are going to deal with policy issues of the ANC. We are also going to develop a program for the next 4 years. And once we have completed that process, we shall with confidence come before the media, before members of the ANC, and before the nation and say this is now our program, which will be our plan for the next 4 years. And of course, that plan will be centered around the SMART principle. Obviously, the most important one is that it will be time-bound in order to allow our unit of monitoring and evaluation to evaluate on a regular basis, quarterly, yearly, and so on, whether are we implementing what we said we will implement. So that's what we are going to do. But there are current challenges which can't wait for conference to complete its business. That relates to the state of our branches. We have no option but to get into that space immediately, ensuring that the branches of the ANC become active branches of the ANC, which has got programs as well geared towards rebuilding the ANC, renewing the ANC, and unifying the African National Congress. There are also immediate challenges that relates to issues at the government level. I've said when we were opening this conference that there are key things that we'll have to attend to as quickly as possible. Amongst others is to ensure that there is political instability in our municipalities. because our own comrades who are councillors and so on, more often than not, they are fighting amongst themselves instead of focusing on service delivery issues. We'll have to get into that space. This is not something that we don't know, that almost every month or almost every quarter, there are motions of no confidence against mayors of the ANC, speakers and so on. And some of these motions are supported by councillors of the ANC without the expressed approval of the organization. So we'll have to ensure that there is some organizational discipline in caucuses of the ANC, including in the provincial legislature, of course. You know that as we speak today, portfolio committees in that institution are chaired by members of the opposition, and the ANC is in majority. We'll have to quickly fix that situation, because you can't be a ruling party and account to an opposition party. This is quite a disappointment to people who elected the ANC.
Just maybe on this question again, the issue of gender representation, only one female, leader within the top 5 as well. Is this something you will be looking at, trying to change, perhaps maybe in the PEC nominations and elections as well? Because what we understand is that you've been also very vocal about female representation having to be one of the key things the ANC looks into, particularly with that policy of gender parity as well. An election coming from some of the BPGMs shows that women should be represented in some of these slates as well within the organization.
I must indicate that we would have wished to have more women into the top 5 of the ANC. But unfortunately, decisions of this nature are taken by conference. So the conference has decided. But what is important is that the constitution of the ANC is very emphatic that in the entire body of the PEC you must have 50% representation.
Right.
And this is what the comrades are now trying to deal with. Because we have said when we spoke to them that this thing of having more men in structures of the ANC and not consider women and so on is unacceptable. And in some instances it's unconstitutional. And we need to give our women in the ANC a gift. This is a Women's Month. This is August. I hope comrades, as they engage, as they talk amongst themselves about how the PEC should look like and so on, they will remember that this is August, a Women's Month, and these women must be in positions of responsibility.
Obviously, this speaks to what you were saying during your address after you were elected, to say you will be focusing on resuscitating some of the leagues, which includes the now, of course, ailing Women's League in the province. This must be a priority, to say once the Women's League is fully functional, it can also speak to the prioritization of women within the grouping leadership positions within the ANC.
Yes, of course, I agree. You will know that the NYTT took a decision to dissolve the Women's League in the province. They've now established the PTT. And one of the key responsibilities of the PTT is to rebuild structures of the Women's League. And as the ANC, we are going to support the Women's League. We are going to support the leadership of the Women's League to ensure that they achieve that objective of rebuilding those structures. Because you need a strong Women's League, which will ensure that women issues find expression in everything that we do. Women issues must be in our veins. When we sleep, we must be thinking about women's issues. When we wake up, we must think about women's issues. Because empowerment of women can't be something that we talk about in the media, in when we make speeches and so on. But at a practical level, we don't do those things.
You also speak about you not having to interfere with the affairs of government. You will not be at the center of trying to reshuffle anyone. We saw a precedent whereby the former KZN Premier Sihle Zikalala did not make the cut in terms of being in the PEC. He was subsequently then reshuffled, now him being the MEC of Kokta. You were saying you want to focus on the needs of the people in the province. Just take us through that as well. What were you talking about when you made reference to that?
No, you are correct. We are in a conference of the ANC. This conference of the ANC must elect the leadership of the ANC. We are not electing the leadership of government. We are not electing a premier, MECs, councillors, and so on.
Right.
So we are electing the leadership of the ANC. So when a person is elected as the chairperson of the ANC, it does not mean that that person is elected as the premier. Our responsibility, because all these comrades are deployed by the ANC, is to give these comrades chance, opportunity, time to do their work. Ours is to ensure that they implement policies of the ANC, they implement the manifesto of the African National Congress. If there is a need for any change and so on, that time will come, but we are not focused on those things. Our focus must be to stabilize the ANC and to stabilize government, and we shall work together with all those cadres of the ANC who are deployed in those positions of responsibility. This thing of today I'm elected, therefore I must get into government and so on, must not preoccupy our mind, because that is not the issue. We must implement the program of the ANC. We must translate government policies, ANC policies, into government policies. Our people are waiting for us. Our people are tired. Our people want service delivery. This is what we are going to be seized with, not positions.
You also mentioned the issue of wanting to rectify this whole challenge of ANC members always going to court when they are aggrieved and not exhausting internal systems and, of course, procedures. Are you of the view that now that we understand today that there are those who are trying to nullify this provincial conference, are you of the view that this is something that really needs to change, that ANC members need to discuss problems when they have problems and not use the courts as a political playfield?
If it is true that other members of the ANC are going to court to nullify the conference and so on, it will be quite unfortunate. But this cancer of litigations in the province is becoming a serious problem, which we think that the national conference must express itself on this matter. Because you see, ANC is a voluntary organization. All members of the ANC, they join this organization voluntarily, which therefore suggests that they know what is the constitution of the ANC saying, they know what are the policies of the ANC and so on, and they must be bound by those policies. Which suggests that before you can go to court, you must exhaust internal processes of the African National Congress. And some of these comrades, they don't exhaust those internal processes of the ANC. They just rush to court as if they don't know or they don't understand what are those processes and so on. But I hope comrades will cease from doing such things and so on. We seriously need stability in the Northwest province. We can't afford this thing of spending time in court and so on and not focusing on the needs of our people.
Chair, take us into confidence. Just my last question here. Of course, you know there's a buzzing issue around the case currently that was being provisionally withdrawn by the MPA, in which you are implicated, speaking to a charge of culpable homicide. Are you willing to cooperate with the organisation if the issue of step aside were to come into play again? I mean, you've been elected as chairperson, if you outlined some of your ambitions for the province, but this burning matter here, take us into confidence as to how you will be dealing with it as well.
I did not know that the matter is burning. Our intention is to focus on conference business and focus on challenges before us and leave private matters for private individuals to deal with those issues. Now, this was an accident that happened in 2018, a road accident, and it must be treated as such. It has got nothing to do with serious offenses like corruption, money laundering, racketeering, and so on and so forth. But if other people want to use an accident, a traffic offense, as a political weapon and so on, that is up to them. But obviously, I'm a member of the ANC. I understand policies of the ANC, the constitution of the ANC, and so on. And if the leadership of the ANC can come to a conclusion that on this matter we must step aside and so on, I will obviously comply with what the leadership of the ANC will be saying. But I don't think that it's a matter that we must be seized with and so on. What must be burning is service delivery. What must be burning is potholes that are all over this province. What must be burning is street lights that are not working. What must be burning is lack of water for our people. What must be burning is sanitation. What must be burning is high unemployment rate. What must be burning is the state of the organization, our branches and so on that are dysfunctional. What must be burning is what is happening in councils and so on, where people are not focusing on serious business of governing our municipalities and the province, focusing on themselves, fighting amongst each other and so on for positions. Those are the things that must be burning, not what happened on the road and so on. By the way, as we speak here, I suppose we are going back to Joburg. You can be involved in an accident. As we speak here, there are delegates of the ANC here. As they go back home and so on, they can be involved in an accident and so on. What are we suggesting? That if people are involved in an accident, they must then step aside. And in matters like this, you will never know. It might not be X who is wrong, it might be somebody else and so on. We must allow the court to pronounce on this matter. But like you said, the matter for now is provisionally withdrawn, and let's allow the NPA to take a decision whether they are proceeding with the matter or not. And once they've taken a decision and so on, you can come back and talk about this thing. Now you are talking about something that is provisionally withdrawn and so on. I don't know where does this excitement come from. Thank you very much.
Chair, thanks for everything and all the best with your work in the province.
Thank you very much.
That's Nono Maloyi, the newly elected provincial chairperson. They're speaking to us regarding some of these plans for the province now that he's been elected. But of course, also saying that the issue of service delivery is a burning need that needs to be prioritized in this province. I've been covering this province for the past couple of months, and I can tell you that this is one issue that many residents have really been complaining about. The president also here, when he was here during the presidential imbizo, did also highlight how it was really urgent to have the ANC really fully function in this province to speak to the needs of the people. Back to you, Stuart.
About the needs of the people and what has come out of this Northwest conference. So there's new leadership, but it certainly hasn't been without its drama. Pule Letshwiti-Jones, go grab some more coffee. You and the team will check in with you again later in the day, spending the evening there covering throughout the night the ANC North West Conference.